Hello and welcome back to the X-Ring. I hope you're doing well today. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look and evaluate what I feel are the best chronographs for 2023. So stick around. All right, so first and foremost, I want to welcome all my new subscribers. I've seen an increase in the subscribers over the last week or two, and I really appreciate you guys. So if you're wondering about the channel and what it's all about, we cover everything from precision rifles, long range, center fire, rim fire. We cover machine guns, and pretty much anything that is instruction based, something that with some learning involved. So what we're going to look at today is what I feel are the best chronographs of 2023. Now, gone are the days where I'm going to be setting up and counting off 15 feet and setting up a light trap. It's just too cumbersome, it's too much to deal with, and I really don't have the time for it. So my picks for the best three for 2023, and we are going to narrow it down, are going to be the LabRadar, which is a Doppler style radar. Also, the new FX True Ballistics. This was released very recently, and so I'm interested in using this one. And then also the Magnetospeed V3. This has been like my go-to, but there are times this is not going to be the best option for you. We're also going to take a look at some of the accessories that are available for it. So things like for the Magnetospeed, whether you're using a Wiser Precision or one of my favorites, the Gray Ops, we're going to look at those and see how they work. The other thing is none of these items were sent to me for free. Every single one of these has either been purchased by myself or was won at a competition. So I have no ties to any of the companies. I have no relationship with any of the companies. So hopefully we can give you guys a good, fair, unbiased review of these three chronographs. All right, so if you're a serious shooter, whether it be in regards to PRS or centerfire rifle or rimfire rifle or even USPSA with your hand loads, a chronograph is essential for figuring out your best loads, for your standard deviation, for your extreme spread, and being able to track those. It's very valuable information, and one of the tools that we can use to determine our speed is going to be a chronograph. All right, so the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to give you a quick overview of each one of these. I'm not going to go into the menus or anything else, but tell you my thoughts over the last little bit that I've been using these, and this one quite a few years. The Magnetospeed as well. The FX I have no experience with. So the first thing about the LabRadar is it is very, very bulky. Now I do know that you can get a carrying case and all of that, but it is rather large. So my understanding is they no longer sell this stand, and typically you're going to be using it with a tripod or something like that. Now I know everyone has different shooting preferences. Typically I'm going to be shooting on my belly to get zeros, to get speeds and things like that. I'm not one of those guys that are typically shooting off of a bench, and these might actually be set up a little bit better for bench work because you're not going to be so close to the ground. So you guys know that my emphasis is long range, but we're going to test a slew of different firearms, everything from rimfire to suppressed rimfire, handgun and suppressed handgun. We're also going to just see how quick and easy it is to set up, but let me tell you some things that I don't like about the LabRadar first. All right, so the weather's being absolutely non-compliant today, but I plan on getting this video out there. So on the LabRadar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a short overview of each of them before we actually start shooting them. So on the LabRadar, you're looking at a price point of about $625, and that's without a stand or anything else. You might have to get a trigger microphone for air guns, but I've also seen that sometimes you have to do that with suppressors. This is also a very dense canopy, but I do have a straight line about 15 feet wide or so, all the way down to the 100 yards. So on the LabRadar, what you have is you have a little sight line here at the top to help you get it aimed in the correct direction. You do have a display that is illuminated, and you do have an onboard basically place to put batteries. Now this does hold quite a few of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the AA s, and it eats batteries heavily if you use this setup. I did get a little bit of corrosion on the batteries, on the battery contacts. Pretty easy to fix with a typical number 2 pencil eraser and just scraping that off. Now as far as how this is held up, now this one's about 3 years old. The rubber on the doors kind of stays in the up position. They don't lock down any longer. You have your power button, and then you also have a place to plug in for external battery packs, which I use constantly. You have a place to plug in your microphone. I believe that's a 3.5 millimeter jack. And on this side, you do have an SD card. I don't think they sell the base stand any longer for whatever reason, but that's what you're looking at. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set this up, put it on the stand, and we'll go ahead and compare it to the FX. All right, so the FX True Ballistics comes in this nice impact resistant case. You will have to buy an extra case for the LabRadar if you wanted to do that. I never messed with that. I just throw it around on the vehicle. I've had no issues with it working whatsoever. When you open it up, you are going to find an owner's manual as well as a USB cable, and this would be for external power as well. Now, you don't really need external power. Because the FX does have a rechargeable battery, makes it really nice, but you do have that plug-in that you can use an external battery pack. What I also like is the size of it. It is considerably smaller than the LabRadar. Price point on this is going to run right at $1,000 MSRP, and they say it's ready to go right out of the box. The other thing you don't have to worry about is the stand, because the outer cover actually turns into a stand. All you do is just take this out, and then you have a little thumb screw here on the bottom, and you just place the little shaft in here to locate it. I'm going to do this while I'm talking to you just to show you how quick and easy it is to set up. And there you go. You have your stand. You do have a sight system up on the top. It's just a little tube. Just gives you a way to point it in the correct direction. You have 4 rubberized knobs, very similar to the LabRadar. It's just a lot cleaner, simpler design, and you have a power button here. So it is a lot lighter. It feels a lot more flimsy, but that doesn't really mean anything. As long as the electronics are good, we should be good to go. All right, next up is the Magnetospeed V3. They do make a sporter version, but the sporter version is not going to work on rimfire. Price point on this model is going to be about $425, $450, somewhere in there, without any other accessories or anything like that. Now, in the zipper pouch, what you're going to get is you're going to get the bayonet, which I actually have attached to this Gray Ops plate, but it is this bayonet here. And then you're also going to get basically a power cable to enable your controller here to be able to hear the signal or see the signal. And then you also get a lot of spacers. Everything from a high temperature suppressor spacer to your normal block spacers. The way the Magnetospeed V3 is designed, it's meant to attach to the barrel of the rifle. However, you know as well as I do that's going to affect harmonics because we're hanging weight off of that barrel. It can also affect group sizes. So what I've seen at most PRS matches or rimfire matches, most of the people are using some type of mount system. So this is a Gray Ops mount. This runs about $275, $250 to $300 or so, depending on where you buy it. This makes it super easy and super fast. One of the downsides of this is, yes, it's super easy and super fast, but the mounting plate uses an Arca Swiss, or some people call it an Atlas. So as long as you have a chassis system or something with an Arca rail, it's super quick and super fast. However, if you're using something with a Picatinny rail, let's say like an AR and it's got a quad rail, but it's got a really short barrel or an SBR, you really don't have any way to attach it without changing this plate. And my understanding is, and we're going to try it, is that you can use any of the ADM quick release levers, and that should attach to the bottom of the handguard. So there are some downsides to this, but if all you're doing is rimfire or PRS centerfire, this is probably the quickest, easiest way to be able to set up a chronograph. Now, when it comes to traveling, this is too large, okay? So if you go from, let's say, North Carolina to Utah and you need to measure how fast you're going because of density, altitude, you know, things change. Your velocity is going to change. I've seen swings of 150 feet per second from what I've loaded in North Carolina as opposed to going out to Utah and shooting. The Magnetospeed is super, super light, super easy to carry and pack away in your luggage. Now the FX kind of fits that bill as well because it is tiny, and I don't really think you need this case, but it is going to help protect it. You can also get this mount from Wiser Precision. It is a carbon fiber mount that will basically keep it off of the barrel so you're not getting any type of harmonics. This is going to run you about the same price, a little over $200. Works really well, but a lot of 3D printed parts, of which I've never had any to break. So those are the rundowns of the 3 different units. Let's go ahead and start testing them. All right, so I think what we're going to do now is we're going to test all 3 of these together. So we have the Magnetospeed on the left, And it does have Bluetooth. You can do an app to your phone and you can see everything real time on the phone. It's a little easier interface. You can also do the same thing with the True Ballistics, the FX Impact. There is an app for it, and apparently you can see the same thing and get your BCs and all of that. Now, what I've also done is made sure they were on different channels, because they do have frequency interference when you use a Doppler and they're on the same or close to the same frequencies. You can also turn a feature on that will blink the screen on the FX if there is interference at a range or something, if someone else is using a Doppler. Now, on the LabRadar, it's not quite as sophisticated. It will just tell you there's a tracking error when it senses some interference. So I'm going to go ahead and load up 6 rounds of the Lapua Center X. I'm going to be shooting it in a DP Gunworks rifle. Big shout out to Kenny over at DP Gunworks. And I really don't care about the accuracy right now. We just want to get a velocity spread and see where we're at. On the Magnetospeed, I've got the Gray Ops attached to the Arca rail. This one does not need an adapter on it. However, if you need an adapter, let's say you have a canted Arca rail, you will need the wedge adapter for the Gray Ops, which is another $45 or so. So let's go ahead and test all of this. We'll go ahead and start. Let me go ahead and reset the Magnetospeed and we'll see how close we are on velocity. I mean, that's going to be the key thing. All right. So here we go. Just shooting it downrange towards the target. Okay, the Magnetospeed is the fastest. It says 1059, followed by the FX with 1060. It says 1063. So guys, we only have a 4 feet per second difference between all 3 of these. 1059, 1060, 1063. Let's do it again. Okay, once again, 1060 on the Magnetospeed, 1061, 1064. So from what I'm seeing, it appears, and I do have them set for the same, being the 0 distance for the first one, at muzzle velocity, and we've got full signal strength on the LabRadar. It's typically running about, you could say, 4 feet per second faster on the reading. The FX is kind of like in the middle, but closer to the Magnetospeed, but we don't know which one's actually right, do we? So it could be any of the 3 that are dead on, but we're within 4 feet per second. Once again, Magnetospeed at the fastest, 1081. So we've got a hot round, 1082 and 1084. So the difference, once again, is about 3 feet per second. Shot 4, Magnetospeed's the fastest with a 1073, 1073. Those 2 were spot on, and the LabRadar is 3 feet per second faster. All right, sorry about that. If you've ever laid on your vehicle keys and set off the panic alarm, that's exactly what happened. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and continue on. I've got 2 more rounds. Let's go ahead and, you know, the trend here that I'm seeing is that these 2 are pretty close, within 1 foot per second. I would say those are probably the most calibrated just on law of averages. And then this one's just running about 4 feet per second faster, at least with the rimfire. Let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so we have 1055, 1057, 1053. So a little bit bigger gap that time, but one more. 1069, 1070, 1075. So almost every shot, this one is running a little bit faster, no more than about 4 to 5 feet per second. But they're all getting the shots. I had no issue setting them up. I didn't have to aim anything or anything like that, just kind of in the general direction. But this is the fastest, being the Magnetospeed, the V3. Let's go ahead and switch over to a subsonic suppressed round. All right, so what we've done now is we switched rifles. This is a factory Voodoo. It's been custom Cerakoted. It's my daughter's rifle by Wayne Hammer Customs. And it does have an energetic armament suppressor on here, full titanium suppressor, state-of-the-art, super quiet. But remember, guys, you don't want to be shooting a suppressor if you're trying to be competitive in ELR or PRS rimfire, because you're going to build up carbon in there throughout the match. It's going to get heavier, change your harmonics, and you will notice diminished accuracy the longer you shoot it. Also, whenever you go to the start position and you lift your rifle up, all of that unburnt carbon that's in your suppressor is going to come right back down the barrel into the action. If you don't believe me, take your .22 can and just tap on the end of it and you'll see how much crud comes out of it. That's the nature of the beast. So we have all 3 units active. Let me go ahead and reset the series here on the Magnetospeed, and we'll see if this works. I've just placed the rifle in the dead center like we did before, and here we go. All right, same area. Okay, 1075 on the V3, 1070 on the FX. The longest one was the LabRadar. It took forever to get that signal back, but it is at 1070. So now we're seeing a bigger variance. That one registered the slowest at 1070. The V3 was at 1075, and the LabRadar was 1078. So we're getting some differences now. 1070, it measured that again. 1071, 1071. All right. So we're within 1 feet per second. The two were the same, and the FX was off by 1. It says 1070 again. That's actually not changing. The FX is not changing at all. It says 1070, 1066. Maybe it is the same. Maybe it's that consistent. 1070, 1078, 1074. So I'm actually not getting a reading on the FX. It's flashing, but it's not changing anything. We are getting accurate readings on this one because these two are pretty darn close, within 4 feet per second. So let me move that and see if we can get the FX to register. All right, we put it just 1 inch away. Still says 1070. There we go. Now we get a reading of 1059. LabRadar's picking up it every time. No registration on this one, and we got it on the LabRadar. So this one, the FX is being a little more finicky when it comes to a suppressor. Now, one of the things I have seen is if you put the end of the suppressor even with a Doppler radar, typically what you're going to see is it will register. Not always, but sometimes. That time it registered 1079, 1078. So with the suppressor, it doesn't like being forward of the FX. I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but that's how that's working. All right, so right now it looks like the LabRadar is a little less finicky than the FX. However, the FX is a lot lighter, a lot more compact. Pretty simple to use. The LabRadar probably has a little higher learning curve just because of so many buttons, whereas this one's pretty darn simple in the FX. Now, I haven't forgotten my pistol guys. Let's say you are a pistol shooter and you don't really shoot rifles. So what we're going to do is we're going to test a 9mm here. This is an old Walther P38. And I haven't shot it in forever, so I just want to shoot a couple rounds. And so if you're a USPSA shooter, or if you're just a casual shooter, one of the things you might want to do when you're hand loading is see what your power factor is, see what your velocity is, to make sure that you have a good load. Now, unfortunately, this is where the Doppler radars are going to surpass the Magnetospeed, because even without the gray ops, it's going to be next to impossible to attach it to a pistol like this without some type of pick rail or something. Now, I guess you could hang a bayonet on this, but with the way this thing reciprocates, it's not going to work well. So I think this is a much better option, having the Dopplers. Now, the other thing is you do need to set the velocity range on Doppler radars. On the LabRadar, it's a little more picky. So the FX should be much simpler to set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert the mag. I'm going to cock this. Both of them are hot. I'm going to shoot in the general direction. They're all set up for low speed, so here we go. Seems like they both registered 1149, 1148. 1149, 1148. Here we go again. See if I can hit this at 100. 1107, 1107. They're both identical for handgun. 1123, 1124. So when it comes to handguns, both of the Doppler radars work very well. The FX is faster on the input, on giving you the answer, and this one takes a little bit longer. So what I want to see here is I'm just going to do like 3 shots somewhat quickly and see if we pick up all 3, or if we lose one because of the speed at which we're firing. So I'll do 4 shots. 4 shots with a slower staccato. Or actually, we'll do 2 shots. Boom, boom. All right, you guys ready? Here we go. Boom, boom. So we got 111, 111. Both of them missed it at that speed, okay? So, yeah, we're going to have to shoot a little slower if we want to see it. Let's try it again. And 1098. Let me wait on the other one. That's how long we had to wait. Yeah, the FX absolutely faster than the LabRadar, but they're always within 1 to 3 feet per second. All right, next up is going to be a Glock 44. This is a 22 cal. It does have the CGS, the siren suppressor that is super, super lightweight, and I just want to see if these will pick it up. Once again, the Magnetospeed is going to lose some points here, even though there is a rail here. Trying to hang that off the end of the gun, not even going to think about trying to do that. So here we go with 22 suppressed. I'll hold it in front. FX registered at 798, 799 on the LabRadar. FX got it, they got it. Yeah, so there is quite a delay. You'll spend an extra second and a half. I think I can get this steel. What do you think, guys? All right, so they both had 0 issues working with the Glock 44 with the suppressor. So my evaluation of all 3 units is that for PRS, center fire, I don't think you're going to beat the Magnetospeed. For portability, for cost, remember you are going to be about the same price as the LabRadar just because of that Arca Swiss plate. Now, if you are wanting to spend $1,000, I think the FX is a good option. I know that the speed tracker, the little bullet speed tracker, I don't have one of those to review, but I know a lot of people that have tried those, and those are varying somewhere between 30 and 40 feet per second difference between these units. So there's something off with the calibration on those. That's $1,000, and I actually don't see the benefit of having that on my rifle all the time. And there's also some aiming issues on some of them. So I don't have any first-hand knowledge, but I have some really good friends that have those units, and they wish they would have spent the money elsewhere. The FX seems to be a really, really good option, but that price point at $1,000, I believe it's a little unrealistic. I believe it's too expensive. I think the price point of this being at around $700 will be fair, but then again, I don't know what the manufacturing costs are. I think the LabRadar, when you can find them, they actually work really well. There was a time there it was really hard to find them, but the FX is pretty simple, pretty easy to use. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to take my stopwatch and I'm actually going to set up each one of these units on a centerfire rifle. Well, basically, it's not going to be a race where I'm going to be hurried or anything else, but we just want to see what the setup time is. Now, granted, you're probably going to be shooting your PRS rifle that's set up, so we'll go ahead and have the Magnetospeed and the FX to the proper grain weight. That would actually be a disadvantage to the FX because it doesn't have a fast mode when you're going from, let's say, rimfire from a 40 grain bullet to, let's say, a 105 or a 109. It takes forever because it doesn't cycle fast like the LabRadar can give you. It'll go slow and then fast, kind of like a Kestrel does. So that's what we're going to do. I am going to be shooting the 6mm GT by DP Gunworks, and what we'll do is we'll start off. We're just going to do 3 shots total, but 1 from each setup. So I've got the magazine loaded. We're not going to get crazy with it, and we'll start off with the LabRadar. Unfortunately, the LabRadar doesn't have batteries in it. The batteries are dead, so I'm just going to have to use the power pack. So I'm going to start laying down beside the rifle and go. So we would take the LabRadar, we put the base plate down or the tripod, whatever you're using. Make sure it's kind of leveled up. Let me go ahead and get my power pack attached. And then I basically just clamp this on. You need to get it kind of aimed in the general direction. I'm going to go ahead and fire it up. And this one has a muzzle brake, so I don't want the muzzle brake blasting the side of the LabRadar. We're pretty much in the same direction. The fire up speed on the LabRadar takes a little bit longer than the FX. And so it's still working on that right now. We're going to go ahead and make it hot. And what we'll do is we will insert the magazine. All right, and here we go. Okay, a little bit of muzzle blast, but the muzzle brake blew the LabRadar, and because it did so, it did not get a speed. What I've seen with the muzzle brakes, not only can you damage your units, but you want to shoot past it, okay? And I've seen this a couple times with suppressors as well. So I wanted to show you, hey, this could be an issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this forwards. We're going to do this real world. I'm just going to shoot past it this way. Let me enter first, because that is the general direction. Yeah, she blasted her pretty good. So now we're just going to shoot past the LabRadar. Here we go. That time it was 29:12. So we did get a reading. Everything worked correctly. And if I stop it from time of setup to the actual finish and me talking to you guys, it was about 1 minute and 52 seconds. Okay. Like I said, it wasn't hurried or anything like that. 1 minute and 52. All right. Next up is going to be the true ballistics. So here we go. All right. So same thing. We're going to take this. We're not going to take it out of the case or anything else. Just going to put the screw in here. I'm going to turn it on while I'm getting it set up. Let's go ahead and get it aimed. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We're going to tap the button to activate. It is activated. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to place it where we did the LabRadar to see if we don't get a reading and see if we have to move it. Fair is fair, right? All right, here we go. Yeah, not going to get a reading doing that because the muzzle blast is going to blow the Doppler radar backwards. So let me get it set up again. And we're going to shoot past it just like we did with the LabRadar. All right. Here we go. And we did get a registration on the reading. It was 29:12. Typically with my ammunition, I'm going to be running around 2 or 3 SD, so you can see the feet per second are right there. It's about 29:10, 29:15, somewhere in there. Let me go ahead and stop it. 1.5 minutes, okay? 1 minute, 30 seconds. So the FX is actually going to be faster. It is less bulky, and I figured that'd be the case. Now let's try it on the Magnetospeed. All right, here we go for the Magnetospeed. Give me just a moment. And go. All right, so first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and connect the power. I'm going to put my Magnetospeed on like this. Typically, it's going to be set up for most of your rimfires as long as the chassis are pretty close. Then all I have to do is plug the bayonet in right there. I'm going to press any button, taking my time. Okay, here we go. All right, I have the reading right here. Let me go ahead and stop it. Stop. We are at 48 seconds. So if you are one of those shooters that just need to get some quick data, the Magnetospeed is by far the best way to go. It's also the cheapest in the bunch. Even if you get the Gray Ops, it's going to be about the same price as the LabRadar, but it's just so easy to travel with. All right, I hope you guys all enjoyed that review of the best chronographs of 2023. Like I said, the LabRadar is tried and true. It's been around forever. It's built like a tank, but it's heavy, it's bulky, it's cumbersome, but it works, and it works well. The other thing about a Doppler radar that I wanted to mention over the Magnetospeed is if you have two people, let's say you're teaching a class and they're shooting the same caliber and everything else, you can actually place speed in the middle and get a speed off of each one of them. While it'll be in the series, you'll just have to know who shot first and who shot second. So that's the advantage of the Doppler type systems. I'm not a big fan of the batteries and how fast that they die in this, and it is just a bulky, thick unit. Now, FX came along and they did it right. This is a really nice, simple, easy to use unit. I will tell you, it feels very chintzy, okay? It's a good thing that it's lightweight and very portable, but it just feels fragile. Now, it might not be fragile, and I like the display, I like the user interface. Super lightweight, has everything that you need, nothing that you don't. Very small little package here that stores very nicely. But to pay $1,000 for this, I think they're a little off with their price point. This really needs to be a little bit lower. I think around $700 would be fair for it, but they probably were just answering, you know, the speed tracker or whatever that name of that thing is to compete with them at $1,000. Still my favorite is going to be the Magnetospeed V3. There are disadvantages to this though. If you are trying to use it on something like an AR with a Picatinny, you're going to need to switch this plate over. I don't know why the guys over at Gray Ops with the products that they make, I mean they make top tier products, why they wouldn't have used the Arca Swiss Picatinny dual clamp system. You know, it's not an inexpensive piece, I know that. That piece is rather expensive, but they're already here, they're offering a premium product, they're going through the problem, I mean, they're going through the expense of anodizing and using stainless screws, and this is an awesome bayonet, but why wouldn't you do that? This is just so difficult to attach to a Picatinny on an AR or something like that, that it should have been thought of for that $250, $300 price point that they charge for this. As far as the Magnetospeed, it has been crazy durable. This one's actually got some damage on the bayonet, but it still works perfectly. This was from an 8.6 jacket that separated in some testing, but I've had zero issues with it. You just need to make sure you have that clearance, and it does have that blast shield here. I know for matches that are out of state, the Magnetospeed is the one that's going with me every time, and you know, the thing is, it doesn't consume the batteries near as much as the other two. So I hope you guys enjoyed that review, and we'll talk to you soon. I hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you.